Now you're going to have to move your shovel, Bob, I'm sorry.
What?
Well, you were working over here last time and it was alright.
I know.
Where Bob's working at the minute, down in the bottom of the trench, you can see we've got a few large stones, large-ish, and they're the same general size of stone as the ones you've seen in what we think is the foundation of the road down in the bottom trench. So we're fairly confident, in fact very confident, that that represents the original foundation layer of the road. Because, excuse me, next to it we have bedrock. And that bedrock is very fissured rock that you can see, you probably can't see because it's too far back, it just goes around the front end of the trench and it's been cut away in what appears possibly to be a step. We think what the most likely thing that happened, because it slopes slightly backwards, is that they built a series of steps in the bedrock and then built the road on top of that. Because it's stepped, that helps stop all the material just simply slip down the hill. Although that didn't work very well. If you look at what we've got what is in effect a stream valley. At some point a flash flood has just taken all the road, every bit of it, down the hill and left at the edges just a little bit of the road structure on either side, which is very handy for us because it means we can work out what's going on. Over here, if you look at this on this side and look at the bottom of the pile first, I apologise that it's rather mucky, that's with all the rain we had over the last couple of days. We haven't had time to clean it up again. The stones are quite angular, they're only about so big, but quite angular stones, and it's a layer that appears to be about 20 to 25 centimetres thick. Then on top of that, we've got another layer, possibly thinner layer, of river cobbles. There's just a few poking through that you can see. Ignore the other bits on top because they've just ended up washed in there later. So with two distinct layers on top of the foundation. So the original road surface down here would have been level with those two gritstone, small gritstone stones that you can see there. Road surface about that high. So all that has just gone down the hill, washed away. Going back to those curbstones, because that's what we think those are, they're the same type of stone and about the same size as the one that's in the edge of the trench, down in trench 1, down at the bottom. We've found 5 pieces of stone like that so far, and every one of them has been right at the edge of what we think is the road. Not all in their original position, but we think those two probably are. The huge one behind, we haven't the faintest idea what it is or why it's there. It's probably just tumbled down the hill in one of the various floods that we know there have been. As I said, we know there was one flood which took all the road surface away and left this sort of U shape. However, well, you've left your map there again. He does it on purpose, I'm sure. If you can see, we've got a cobbled surface there. But if you look on the side of the trench where it's cut through that cobbled surface, it's just this sandy material that we're digging out everywhere, which is just what we call the hill wash. It's just the debris that's been washed down. So what we think has happened is that as a sort of a repair, rather than rebuild the whole road up again, all they've done is level off that hill wash that had been deposited in the bottom after the flood had finished and plonked a few cobbles in it. That isn't something the Roman army would have done. So when that repair took place, and by who, is anybody's guess. The Roman military will have built the road in the first place, but those repairs could have happened as late as the 12th, 13th century, for all we know. And I do say repairs, plural, because if you look at this edge here, you do have to use your imagination a lot on this job. We've got a few stones just poking out of the side of this clay bank, and we think that's the remains of another road surface that was about another 10-12 centimetres higher than this one. But that didn't last long either, because there's none of it left. All we've got left are those few stones sticking in the bank. Why was this road so susceptible to flash flooding? Well, ironically, it's probably because of the way it was actually built. If you look here, in the section, you can see that this surface is constructed of a sandy clayey material that's just been dumped on top of a layer of clay, and that in itself has been put there. We think this is actually a later repair, but that clay down there is original. Basically, this was a clay bank. And going up this side, if you look in that patch in the middle, you can just see a slight shiny grey area. That's the one bit of clay we've got left there. This represents all that's left of the structure of the revetment. In other words, what was holding the material back on this side of the cutting. We think it consisted of two very crudely built stone terraces with rubble filled behind, and then the whole lot covered with a foot approximately of clay over the top. And that's all that's left. So if we're right, that will have been a smooth clay surface all the way down to there, and a smooth clay surface on that side. So when you get very heavy rain, there's only one thing that's going to happen: all the water goes down that way. Which should be fine for a while if your road is constantly repaired, but when you start to get wheel ruts going through the surface, that focuses the water even more, and then eventually it just ripped the whole lot out. We think that's what happened. If we can move round, if you all go round.